everyone. I'm Jim Longworth, and welcome to another edition of Triad Today, coming to you once again from our home away from home, the Senior Botanical Garden in Kernersville. We'll tell you more about them later on, and later on, by the way, is when the roundtable shows up to get into all sorts of controversies, so stay tuned for that. We have a lot in store to tell you about, including apprenticeships and reopenings of theaters and much more. But where I want to start is to talk about COVID-19, specifically vaccinations, and we have two guests with us who are involved very much in trying to educate us all about those things. On my immediate right is a returning visitor to the show. Sorian Schmidt is Senior Program Officer for Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation, and she brought a very special guest with us today, a very busy man, and one that's been doing a great job. Joshua Swift is Public Health Director for Forsyth County Department of Public Health. Welcome to both of you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorian, let me start with you very briefly, and then we're going to scoot over here to Joshua. Remind us very quickly in 5 or 10 seconds about the mission of the foundation in case people don't know.
Sure. Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation is a statewide private family foundation, and our mission is to help improve the lives of all North Carolinians, and we have a particular focus on our home county of Forsyth.
Right, and you give a lot of grants each year. When we give the website later on, people can explore that whole thing. But where I want to hone in right now is one of the grants you gave went to Joshua's department. Why?
Yes, well, of course, we are very concerned about addressing the needs that are arising due to the pandemic. And we were really pleased that we could provide a grant to Forsyth County Public Health to help get the word out about how to stay healthy during the pandemic and how to get a vaccine and who should be getting them and when.
Because you guys are always so involved in Mo and everybody at the foundation, so involved in improving quality of life, and this is a quality of life issue. I want to go over to Joshua for a second and to let the folks at home know we are, for various reasons, taping on Wednesday, March the 24th, even though you're watching this on Saturday and Sunday. Because of the day we're taping, can you give us any update on who can get the vaccine?
Oh yeah, excellent question. So right now we're in the middle of group 4. So that means we are focused now on individuals who are with medical conditions that puts them at risk. That could be a smoker, that could be someone who is diabetic, obesity, so different mental health illnesses. So we're in that focus, but we're also still focusing on groups 1, 2, and 3. Groups 1 is that long-term care workers, healthcare workers that maybe still haven't got the vaccine.
Folks like me that are over 65?
Yes, that's group 2, 65 and over.
Right.
And then you have group 3, which is really those frontline essential workers. So even as we go into each group, we're still continuing to see individuals in those previous groups.
Let me ask you something, Joshua. This just sort of catch you off guard here, but if, let's say I got my vaccine, which I did. Now, and folks at home should know that we all have our masks. I've got mine here. We wear them as we come in and sit down, and then as we begin to talk, because we're socially distanced, we will take them down for a few seconds. But let's say we've been vaccinated. Do we need to keep up the things like keeping a mask on in public places and social distance?
Yes, we need to keep that up. Once you have the vaccine, it takes at least 2 weeks for your immunity to be fully intact for your immune response. But you know, when you're in public, you don't know who you're around. I mean, the CDC has put some guidelines out where if you have been vaccinated and your friend has been vaccinated and it's been at least 2 weeks since your second dose or your first dose of Johnson & Johnson, yes, you could meet together in private, have your mask off. But when we're around others, really once you've been vaccinated, you could then, there's a possibility you could pass it on to someone else.
And not know it.
Yeah, and not know it. So
do I need to keep getting tested after I've gotten the vaccination?
Well, it is a good idea. If you've been in contact with someone who has had COVID, then you probably should do that, or if you have symptoms. It is 95% effective, but there's still that 5% chance. All
right, very quickly before we lose time here on the segment, Joshua, what does it mean to you that your department got the grant from Z. Smith Reynolds?
It's so important building that relationship and getting that information out there, because that's the biggest thing I've seen during this pandemic, the dearth of misinformation out there. So we're getting good, solid, reliable information.
I want to put a couple things up on screen, and correct me if I'm wrong here. www.co stands for county, .forsyth.nc.us/COVID update. That will get you some of the latest information. And then a shout out to Sorian and her group at www.zsr.org, stands for Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation, zsr.org, to check that out. I really appreciate what the two of you are doing. You make a good team, and you've really helped a lot of people, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll be right back after this. Back now on Triad Today. I sure would like to talk about something positive, and I can't think of anything more positive than somebody being here whose very title and organization has the word "Say Yes" in it. That's pretty positive. And we're positive that she's here with us and a return visitor. We welcome back to the show Amanda Roseman, who's Chief Impact Officer for Say Yes to Education Guilford. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
For folks that may not have seen you on the program before, or Wendy, who's going to be on our roundtable later on. But anyway, give me like 10 seconds of what the mission is.
So Say Yes Guilford exists to provide scholarships and support services for Guilford County students, so we can really focus on that kindergarten to career success.
Right, take them all the way. Now, how have you had to adapt what you do in serving students throughout this pandemic?
I think the whole world of education has had to shift, and we have too. So we've shifted all of our support services to be virtual, providing webinars for our high school students, and then virtual tutoring support for our elementary and middle, as well as creating a partnership with the Guilford County Volunteer Cohort for juniors and seniors to provide volunteer access before they graduate.
You have any idea of how the results are? I mean, how would you measure it? If you had some good results, even though the pandemic has changed the way we do things, looking back over last year, now as we're getting into this year, what are the results of the program, do you think?
So we are a super results-driven organization. I will say, measuring impact, we've reached double the amount of students we typically reach. Being virtual has allowed students to engage more than ever before. And then also with our tutoring support, we have a HELPS program that does a pre, mid, and post-assessment. And our mid-year assessment had 80% of participants showing growth. So we're very excited about that number.
Wow, the tutoring program. Well, while you mentioned the tutoring program, now as more and more kids get back into the physical classroom, and it looks like we're headed that way for most of the systems around the state. Are you going to continue to offer tutoring services? How will that work?
We absolutely are. So we're committed to being virtual through the end of the school year, offering those tutoring supports for all students who were previously engaged, but also we've been able to partner with a few select Guilford County public schools to provide tutoring while students are physically in the building of school and our tutors are staying virtual.
I know things are kind of in flux because of the pandemic, but do you have any idea of plans that you might have for expanding Say Yes as we get more toward the fall and next year?
Our goal is always expansion. So right now we're in the select few elementary and middle schools. Our goal is to expand to even more next year in person, but keeping some of those virtual components alive as well. And then with high schools, we're serving all 28 high schools across the county, so we want to deepen that relationship even more.
Right. Now, what about deadlines? If a parent or guardian or grandparent's watching us this morning, and they say, wait a minute, I'm going to get on the phone here and tell my son or grandson, about this, or granddaughter. What are the deadlines? Can somebody just register anytime? Or?
So they can register anytime between October 1st and June 1st for our scholarship portal. June 1st is really that key date that everyone's focused on right now. You have to be registered online if you're a Guilford County senior through our scholarship portal that you can find on our website.
Is it difficult to register?
Absolutely not. It is super easy. The only hard component is filling out that FAFSA that we have resources available to help students do.
Well, I just think that's great. Before we lose time, I want to put up something here on screen. SayYesGuilford.org is the website. I really want you to check that out, SayYesGuilford.org. Did I hear a rumor about something about a March Madness competition? What was that all about?
Yeah, so we're currently in the middle of it. We decided to have a little fun for ourselves and host a March Madness competition for all 28 high schools. And it's really focused on that Say Yes enrollment for our scholarships.
Well, I think that's great. I just love what you're doing. And as I said, Wendy's going to join us for the roundtable later on. So even though she's not sitting here with us this moment, I compliment her and I compliment you and your team for all you're doing for these kids, really making an opportunity for them.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. We'll be right back. Today, and always glad when we get some good folks from Randolph Community College to come by and let us know what's going on. And there's a lot going on now. And we have on my immediate right a special guest who's been here for the first time. Stacy Miller is coordinator of Pathways Activities for Randolph Community College. And Stacy brought a very special guest of her own, who is socially distanced behind us. Diane James is Director of Operations for Hubble Industrial Control. She's also Vice Chair for Apprenticeship Randolph. Welcome, ladies. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Stacy, I'm going to start with you. Tell us about your apprenticeship program and what does Pathways mean? So give me some background real quick.
So in 2016, we talked about, we had some industry partners come together and they found a need for skilled workers in Randolph County. I checked with the Economic Development Corporation, and he reported that they have currently 292 manufacturers within Randolph County.
Good Lord.
So that's a lot of need out there for our workforce. And so Apprenticeship Randolph was established by 12 founding partners, 12 industries that got together along with the school system and our community college to fill that need.
And that's since 2016.
Yeah, so
Wow, that's
2016 we started.
Now, how is this benefiting students in general?
Oh my goodness. The students get college, career, all at no debt. So they're getting an associate's degree in either manufacturing technology or information technology, along with on-the-job training. The program for Apprenticeship Randolph is spread out through 4 years. So they get 4 years of on-the-job training with one of our company partners.
Wow.
As well as that college class work at Randolph Community College on, working in that curriculum and learning so much.
What a
and
head
then
start.
applying it.
That's a head start, isn't it?
It really is for our students. And students come in as a junior or a senior in the application process, so they are well on their way at 16, 17, 18, and finish this program at 21, 22, making a great career choice as well as fabulous money.
I'm going to flip the question over to you, Diane. We've talked about the students. How does this benefit companies? Because Hubbell's involved in this. You told me off camera about that you have some interns there doing well with that. How does it benefit companies?
The benefit there is that we have trouble many times getting skilled workers in those hands-on type fields. And by doing this, we're able to fill those slots. We look ahead at where retirements might be coming up and plan for those. It costs us a little bit less to pay for them initially, but we are paying for their extra expenses as well for the schooling because they don't pay anything. And but they come in with no habits, so we get to create the habits for them.
See, I have bad habits. That's why Diane wouldn't hire me. But now you said you had four. You've had four apprentices so far, right?
Yes, that's correct. I have.
And how many of them are still with you?
They are all still with us. In fact, our segment president came through about 2 weeks ago and asked the most senior one if he was going to stay for about 20 years, and he said, 20? I plan to be here for 40 years.
Well, this is just a great testament, because it helps everybody, the students and the businesses, and also the community. I mean, you said you had 50. How many apprentices?
54 currently in the program. We have 3 in IT and 51 in manufacturing.
Well, I guess that you're always interested in having more companies participate?
Absolutely, absolutely. We try to recruit our companies year-round, and so if any company has any desire, they can reach out to me to join. We have a member agreement, but we follow the guidelines from Apprenticeship NC, and that's a North Carolina Community College department, and they provide the guidelines, and Apprenticeship Randolph sets a member agreement, and there's various things in that agreement that they need to adhere to, but they're always excited to get new youth.
And now they can sign up anytime, right?
Anytime, yeah.
Okay. Diane, very quickly before we lose time, why did you want to get involved in this?
I thought it was a great win-win opportunity for the community. These students might otherwise not have a future, and this gives them a good future to help their families and themselves to grow. That's
just great. Ladies, I really appreciate what you're doing. Up on screen, I want to make sure we put this up, randolph.edu, randolph.edu, or specifically to apprenticeshiprandolph.com. That's apprenticeshiprandolph.com. Please check that out, and I'm just so proud of what you're doing. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back after this. Today, time to talk with Mr. Theater, and we know who that is. On my right, Dave Briggs, Director of High Point Theater. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Thank you, Jim. Always a pleasure to be here.
We have some bad news we wanted to go back and look at, and then we have some good news to report. Let's start with going backward for just a second. We know that during the pandemic almost the whole calendar year of 2020, a lot of things were postponed and canceled in the city of High Point. What was the economic impact of that?
Well, I'm not sure what it was for the overall city, but the direct impact that the theater provided from an economic impact statement was a little over $8 million.
Wow.
And we estimate that because we were only really able to work about, a third of a quarter, which, I don't know, that's different math.
Yeah.
Our economic impact for that year was probably around $1.5 million. So we really lost about $6 million in overall impact.
And then the furniture market moved from spring to summer, and what impact did that have?
Well, for us personally, we had some events that were scheduled in the summer that we moved because the furniture market's a much bigger entity than the dance recitals that we had planned for the time that
Right.
the furniture market is going to take place. We've since been able to fill a lot of those dates and move them into July, which is also good news, but we still weren't able to really replace those. We hope that in 2021, the fall of 21, and the spring of 2022, that market will resume its October and April
Regular schedule.
timeframes.
Now, the governor made another recent announcement. There's probably a better term for this, but in relaxing guidelines or whatever. What effect is it having on the theater? Because I know there is some good news element to this in terms of you reopening.
There is. And one of the reasons why, if you've gone to the High Point Theater website, you haven't seen a lot of shows on sale yet. And that's because we were waiting for a level of capacity that would allow us to actually at least break even on a show. So we went from 30% or 250, whichever is fewer, to a full 50% capacity. So that means that a lot of the shows that we already have planned and some shows that we can add between now and when we think it'll go up a little higher, we can base that on 50% capacity. Now, we're a 900-seat theater, so a full 50% would be 450. But socially distancing, we think that we're going to be able to, depending on the size of the groups that come in terms of patrons, not the performers. You know, we think somewhere between 320 and about 380 to 400 is the total number of patrons we'll be able to seat. We're excited about that. And so very shortly you'll be able to see a lot of the shows that we have not listed yet, including the dance competitions, the Miss North Carolina Scholarship Pageant.
Right.
We'll be able to put those on sale for folks to buy.
Right, and we'll give the website address in just a minute, but again, as you're saying, it doesn't tell the whole story yet.
Exactly.
So I just want to hit a couple things, even though that, again, if you go to the website, you can buy tickets, you can call the box office and ask questions, but one thing I want to bring up, somebody named Chelsea Sorrell, I think you're hoping to have for July 17th?
Yeah, Chelsea Sorrell and Tia Goins. They are young country musicians, and I think it's going to be a really fun show. Chelsea is from, I believe, Lexington or Asheboro, and she was on she was on American Idol. And Tia Goins is sort of an internet sensation type of gal. It'd be a lot of fun.
And then our good buddy that you introduced me to, Billy Crash Craddock, you're hoping to get back in August, I think?
Yeah, we've got a date for Billy on August 28th and at 50% capacity, and we think we're going to be at least at 75 by the end of August. Billy will be with us. He puts on an amazing show, and I'll bring him in for an interview too.
Oh, he's a great
so
guy,
good.
isn't he? He's a
So
great
good.
guy. And I think you also mentioned, right before we go to the website, when you came on last month, you mentioned that when people buy their tickets, now it's going to be automatically factored in the whole social distancing thing, right?
That's right. Our ticketing system has an algorithm. So if you call in and you order 1 ticket, 2 tickets, 12 tickets, whatever, your group will be socially distanced. Right now it's at 6 feet.
From another group.
From another group.
Okay, I got you. Up on screen, highpointtheater.com, and please remember to put it's 2 T's because High Point and theater, it all goes together, highpointtheater.com. But the main thing is call 887-3001. That's the quickest way to try to purchase some tickets. And again, as we said, they'll be get you socially distanced as you get in there. Dave, I'm glad things are opening up. It's been a long haul for you.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, it's been a tough year.
This man's had one of the toughest jobs ever. All right, we'll be right back after this. I got on Triad Today, just about time for the roundtable, but a quick shout out and thanks to Adrienne Rothling and her team here at the Senior Botanical Garden, our home away from home. The website's on screen, seniorbotanicalgarden.org. Please visit that and the garden. We'll tell you more next month about their 10th anniversary coming up as well. Now to the roundtable on my right, but always the political left, Ogie Overman, the great broadcaster and journalist. Seated behind us is the lovely and talented Wendy Poteet, President and CEO of Say Yes to Education Guilford, and Keith Granberry rounds out the group as founder of Helping Hands Consultants.
Why can't I be lovely?
Well, you are lovely, but I didn't want to start any romantic thing. All right, guys, before we get to that, we have some prearranged topics we wanted to try to get to. I want to take just a moment on these horrible Atlanta and Boulder shootings, and just one thing that the media is not covering, and that is waiting periods on purchases, because the idiot weirdo that killed 10 people in Boulder bought the gun 6 days before the event. Quick question, I want to go around and then we'll cover this more in depth next week. Would a 90-day waiting period on purchases have made a difference or just prolonged it, Ogie?
It couldn't hurt. It absolutely couldn't hurt. It's not going to solve the problem alone. I mean, we need a lot more than that, but none of it's going to happen, Jim. You know that.
Wendy?
I agree with Ogie. Mental health is something that we need to address that is a crisis in this country. Until we do that, 90 days, 120 days won't matter.
Keith?
It wouldn't matter. Crazy is crazy. He would have got the guns, and he was going to do what he's going to do.
All right, let's go on to a different topic here. We've talked about on this show before the exorbitant CEO salaries across the board in many companies. Some of them are 2, 3, 4, and 500 times what the median worker makes. Now, several United States senators are proposing a law that would raise taxes on any company who pays its CEO more than 50 times the pay of its median worker. Good idea or bad idea, Ogie?
I'd never thought of that approach, Jim, but the more I think about it, the more I like it. I don't have a problem with it.
That's Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders
proposing.
proposing. Yeah, Wendy?
Don't have a problem with it. When you talk about income inequality and you have CEOs that are making 1,000 times more than a median employee, make them pay it in taxes since they don't want to pay it to their employees.
Right. Keith?
Well, these are private industry, and they're working for the shareholders. So while I think, you know, in theory that's a good idea, it's not going to work, because if they're making money for the shareholders are going to reward them. So I don't think it's going to work, even though it has merit.
All right, meanwhile, our own state legislature is proposing a bill that would impose term limits on members of Congress, believe it or not. Are you guys in favor of term limits on congressmen and senators? And if so, what would that limit be? Quickly, Ogie.
I think 12 years is a nice number. 6 terms for House members, 2 for senators, and while we're at it, 20 years for Supreme Court justices.
All right, Wendy.
I'm all for a term limit. I feel like if the President of the United States can only have two terms of 4 years, I don't see any other problem for other elected officials as well.
Mr. Granberry.
I'm against that. I think that we as a community, or we as people, should get together, and if we don't like somebody, vote them out. It's just that simple. We're not doing that, and if state and local politics are people getting together, they have to begin to exercise their right to vote.
All right, the North Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles is planning to relax a number of rules, including allowing a teenager to get his or her license 6 months after the driver's learner's permit, rather than waiting a year. You okay with that, Ogie?
Sure, we didn't have to wait more than a month or 2, as I can recall.
Yeah, that was,
no
you and I
problem.
got ours back in the early 1900s, I
Yep.
think, with it.
Yep.
Wendy?
I'm all for it. I have a 16-year-old with a learner's permit, and I would love for him to be able to drive himself to football practice. Absolutely.
Just drive right out of there and drive you to work. And yeah. All right, Keith, what do you think?
I think you should, if the parent are able to have one of those brakes like they have in the
A passenger brake.
Yeah, passenger
where you put
brake.
yeah,
Other than that,
that's
I don't
good.
know.
I like that.
You like that?
Speaking of rules, our State Board of Elections says that from now on they're thinking about making it so that mail-in ballots should only be counted if they arrive by Election Day. Now, I know all about voter suppression. We've talked about it on this show and various things. I'm kind of okay with the ballots need to be in by Election Day. Ogie?
I'm kind of not, Jim. It is voter suppression, and with our shoddy postal system under Greensboro's finest,
Yeah, that's right.
you could mail it a week before, and it might not make it. That's not right.
Well, that's true. Wendy, your thoughts?
I'm kind of okay with it, kind of not. I think it is a little bit of suppression involved. It has to be talked about in advocacy when you need to get it in the mail. Might be a better idea to have a postmarked by instead of arrive by.
That's a good idea. Keith?
I'm totally not okay with that. It's totally voter suppression. If one side would have won, they would have not been talking about this mail-in ballot. As a matter of fact, that's why they put it in, because most people from the other side were not doing mail-in ballots, so they implemented it for an advantage.
I got you. All right. Now, speaking of the mail, the Postmaster General, and let's all pray we get a new postal board, federal anyway. I don't know why he's still up there, but you know, all those weird things he did last year. Now he says they've got 165,000 vehicles they need to replace for the Postal Service. And he says we're going to do 90% of them fuel driven, 10% of them electric. Guys and gals, shouldn't those numbers be reversed? Shouldn't we be going toward electric, Ogie?
Yeah, man, he's a dinosaur. He just doesn't get anything right. I mean, the guy, I grew up in the post office, Jim. My dad was a career postman. My uncle was high up in the...
Service was important then, and
Yeah.
looking forward and whatever.
Yeah.
Wendy, I know you're a little conflicted in your business dealings, whatever. You know some of these folks involved, but overall?
I will say it does need to look differently than what's being proposed, but good leaders make great decisions based on what's best for the greater good. So that speaks volumes about who we have leading.
Gotcha. Keith?
Wow. That was diplomatic.
So should we go
Tell
more
us what
to-
you feel.
Yeah, electric vehicles or not?
I think it should be heading more toward electric vehicles. I
All
think
right.
so.
Finally, according to a recent survey by Maternity Week magazine, both men and women can prevent wrinkles on their face by smearing bananas all over their face. Guys and gals, have you ever smeared bananas on your face to prevent wrinkles? Ogie?
Only because I didn't know that. I think I would try it. Yeah, sure.
You would
I
try
might,
it.
I might look better
You would
next
try it.
week, Jim.
Wendy, not that you need any help, but would you ever consider smearing bananas on your face?
I will say that the facial cream that I use, my night cream, it smells like rotten bananas. Of course. So apparently I've been doing that. So
Some
I
of
think it
Keith's
works.
answers smell like rotten bananas.
Why
Would you-
some of mine?
Would you ever smear bananas on your face to prevent wrinkles?
You know, I had banana smeared on my face, but I don't think it was
No,
intentional.
no, never mind. Never mind. All right, well, fortunately, that's all the time we have. Oh, except for this. As you may know, President Biden said it was okay for veterinarians to now give the COVID shots to humans. Asked if he was okay with letting a dog doctor give him his COVID shot. One man said, yeah, it was okay, except they made me wait for 15 minutes afterwards to see if my nose was cold. See, it's a dog.
Yeah.
All right, for all of us here,
clever,
except
Jim.
for Keith, and I got to find out more about what he meant. We'll be back next week.